Hi, everyone. My name's Sean Gervin. I am the program director of the Muse Writer Center. Welcome to the first night of Diversity 2020 Dynamic Voices for Change. We're very excited to present this for you. A great way to kick it off with five amazing poets from all over the globe today, joining us tonight. Um, so tonight's reading is the first event in a series of virtual readings that are going to be going on through October and November. This year, every year since 2016, around this time, the Muse Writers Center would put on something called the Book Lovers Bash, which was the only event that we actually charged for because it was a fundraiser event. And this year, we made the decision to not have it, obviously, for obvious reasons. And we decided that, well, what are we going to do in its place? And Luisa Igloria, the Virginia Poet Laureate, just recently had a really great idea because she's on our board that we should do a series of readings, and we should also do something that is not just for the Muse, but for a lot of different organizations that support the literary arts, because literary arts are a very important thing in these times, and specifically social justice and the idea of uplifting marginalized voices and allowing them to be heard, which is something the Muse cares about. And now is the perfect time or to actually, do it and really be productive with it and give the audience a chance to hear some great readers, but also a chance to donate to a lot of great causes. So the Muse is one of those places you can donate, but there's also going to be a lot of different partners that are partnering with us for every event, and you can easily donate to them. If you look below you, if you're on the website, you'll see a logo and a link to donate. And we also have some featured organizations that many of the readers have chosen that are good organizations that can take some money too. Like the Muse has been very lucky in the literary arts in my area. What I do is we've been very lucky throughout the pandemic, and we've grown strong and able to like spread this across the whole world. And it's been a really interesting thing that's happened the last 6 months. But a lot of arts organizations are struggling. A lot of other organizations are struggling. This is a hard time for a lot of people. So if you have some extra money, spread it around. This is a great opportunity to do that. And Also, we're looking for sponsors. So if you want to be a sponsor of an event, um, the Spotlight event tomorrow, which is featuring Ross Gay and Luisa Igloria is going to be handling the Q&A for that. And we're looking for sponsors for the whole thing. We have so many great events coming up. If you look at the-muse.org, and go to the events section, you'll see Diversity 2020. You'll see the main page, and you'll see all the great events coming up. So make sure you check that out. And first, just to talk about the Muse Writer Center really quick, is that we are one of the largest literary centers in the country. We offer creative writing classes and workshops and seminars in all genres, all levels, all ages. And and now they're all online, actually, until at least next year, probably. We're going to keep doing that, but we also have great classes in Hampton Roads in the area, but now you could take classes anywhere. Make sure you check out our schedule. But not only we're one of the largest and offer some of the most of classes, we also don't we have tuition assistance available for anyone who needs it. We gave away almost $30,000 in tuition assistance last year. That's something that we're very proud of. We don't turn anyone away. All you have to do is ask, and we want to continue to do that, and we will. So that's why we will always take money, and we're a nonprofit. We have a lot of ways we try to give back to the community. We pay our teachers. We have community outreach, and just countless things that are available, including lots of free events like this one tonight and more coming up. So make sure you check us out, the-muse.org. Give to us if you can. Give to some of the other organizations below if you can. And also enjoy the show. I'm going to first start by introducing our host tonight, Gabriela Igloria. She is a poet, visual artist, and activist. She is currently an undergraduate student at Old Dominion University, where she intends to major in English. She is also currently serving as cultural liaison for ODU's Filipino American Student Association. Her poems have appeared in publications by Rattle, Work Magazine, and Palama Press. whether it be to take classes or just hang out. She enjoys spending time at the Muse, and we enjoy having her. She was also on the board, the committee for this great event. So thank you very much, Gabriela Igloria.
Hi, thanks, Sean. Welcome to the Muse Writers Center, and thank you for joining us tonight for Next, the Now Generation of Poets of Color. My name is Gabriela Igloria, and I will be your host for tonight. So we'll be hearing from several incredible emerging poets, and tonight's reading is the first in the virtual series Diversity 2020, Dynamic Voices for Change. One announcement before this reading gets started: all work read from the readers is their original work and is owned by the reader unless otherwise noted. Some of the work here today is published in print or online, and some of the work may be unpublished. This live stream today is in no way a publication of unpublished works. And a recording of this live stream will be available both on the Facebook page and on our website at the-muse.org. And so without further ado, let me introduce our first reader. Amanda Gomez is a Latinx poet from Norfolk, Virginia, where she received her MFA in poetry at Old Dominion University. Some of her poems have appeared in Nimrod International Journal, North American Review, Hank, Tupelo Quarterly, and Writers Resist. Her chapbook, Wasting Disease, which was awarded second honorable mention in the New Women's Voices competition, is now available for pre-order through Finishing Line Press. So without further ado, here's Amanda Gomez.
Hi, Gabby. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for letting me read with you all. I kind of feel like the person reaching at everyone else's waistcoats because you all are great writers. So I'm excited to read with you guys. Folks, I gotta correct myself. So I'm gonna read one published poem and then a lot of new poems just because, I don't know, that's how I'm feeling, and a lot of ekphrastic poems. And so what I'm gonna do is I wasn't able to print, so I'll just share an image and then stop sharing it and read the poem. All right. If I figure this out. There we go. So this is a work called Bellies that I'm gonna read a poem off of. And artist is Johanna Haman Barrigas. And the poem is called Elegy. Like sea nettle, pregnant bellies hang, plaster and muslin appendages suspended in air, featureless, as if this is how the mimicry of motherhood persists. Still blood and cradle, merely records of the paternal. Watch here, the mother ruptures, her triptych of submission. The eye always follows what is object. Iron frame, meat hooks, heavy vacant backdrop. Was it you who called this sacred? This body dredged, uncertain of its placement. So this next poem I'm going to read is based off of a picture of a praying mantis and a hummingbird that I saw one day reading the news. It's a little blurry, but here's a praying mantis of a hummingbird feeder with a hummingbird in its grass. So the photo is taken by Tom Vaughn, and the poem is called European Mantis Eating a Black-Chinned Hummingbird. At first glance, you think the mantis is mid-save, its front legs bear hugging the hummingbird's head. You don't want to believe it, how something so beautiful could kill. You learn humans are partly to blame. It's their gardens, their feeders which bring these two together in such an unnatural manner. You look for more. You find it's always the head or neck. In some cases, a mantid pierces the skull and sucks the brain as the bird, still alive in its grip, pumps its wings. How like you, it resists the inevitable so violently. All right, and one more picture. Thanks for bearing with me. All right, so this picture is by Picasso about one of his lovers. So this poem is Tu Doramar. You find your image grief deadened, split face, blue clenched teeth, algae-covered hands. So much hysteria you notice for one painting. It's not the context that's disquieting, but the near constant way he depicts you crying. Or perhaps the way he assumes access to your loss. When someone asks your opinion, you tell them, all portraits of me are lies. You imagine yourself more sepia-toned, more cream and soft, more tangerine than clamshell. You think he wants to constrain you in the dark clamor of his shadow, and you wonder how you came to be here in the first place. Perhaps you wanted permission to exist in this space, fill the obstinate silence made by men, the longing to author your own face. All right, this next poem is called Rita Moreno Rewears 1962 Oscar Dress. And it's the dress she wore when she first won an Oscar for West Side Story, and then she wore it a couple years ago. And there's a line in it from an interview she did with E! News. I wear the galaxy like a dress, little suns bending in their own orbit, their tongues hammered into darkness you would think they would tarnish. I keep telling myself everything that is gold stays gold. It took a while for me to learn down here eclipse is another word for skin. I'm transparent in mine. Please don't take me for tragic. Nothing attracts prey like it used to. In certain parts of the world, disease is a dog cloaked in the sky's marrow. If I belonged to you, I'd go hungry for myself. I'll just end with one more poem. So this poem is called What I Want to Remember, and the title actually comes from an Ada Limon poem. So what I want to remember. At the clinic, after the nurse tells me the doctor wants a second look to be sure, to unzip my pants and discard my underwear, after she asks me if the jelly is cold as she lays it across my belly, shows me the baby again and says, "You're so early, it's just a double check." She'll stop. She'll look at me before exiting and say, "It's okay to do whatever you want." And quite possibly she'll mean go ahead, take the pill. Slight encouragement because she thinks I'm afraid of the after effect, the judgment. But I'll take it as go ahead and have it. The baby, I mean. To cradle the sonogram she'll hand me, cupping the image in my hands. Why am I still thinking about it after all this time? I'm sitting now on my couch, cross-legged, typing at the computer. My browser history reads more like biology. Galrot, blackbird, caterpillar. I'll realize now I'm naming or perhaps in search of names. I want to understand the creatures and plants I've noticed on walks. Maybe this is how I discover grace, how I won't let motherhood go. I keep a record of different bodies. I am collecting the world for you, child. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. So our next reader is Ariel Francisco. Ariel Francisco is the author of A Sinking Ship is Still a Ship and All My Heroes Are Broke. A poet and translator born in the Bronx to Dominican and Guatemalan parents and raised in Miami, his work has been published in The New Yorker, American Poetry Review, the Academy of American Poets, the New York City Ballet, and elsewhere. So here's Ariel Francisco.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for having me. This is such an incredible lineup and I'm honored to be a part of this reading. Hello to everyone on Facebook. I'm not on there anymore, but you know. I'm just gonna read 3 poems, one from my new book, and 2 newer poems. One of them's a bit long, so we'll see how it goes. 2 of them I haven't read too much yet, so some new stuff for me as well. This first one is called "Translating My Dad's Love Poems," and it's after Yusef Kuminyaka. It must have been 98, my mom leaving for work, the first night she doesn't kiss my dad goodbye. He closes the door softly, walks slowly to his office, and takes a hammer to the keyboard of his computer as though desperately trying to build something until the letters fly through the air, struggling to form the words he cannot. I watch from my childish quiet, unnoticed, unsure of how much time passes before he labors over the scattered keys, scooping them up with small hesitation like a man collecting seashells and striving to pop them back into place, to remember where each one belongs. I am so much like my father, and so I too fear love, how I will inevitably fail it, mishandle it, let it fall from my hands, too fragile to survive intact. Years later, I think of him hunched over that keyboard, the same one he used to write the poems I'm now translating, bent over my own computer, alone in my apartment, his words my inheritance, dim foreshadowing. He writes, "Today, I will not think of you. Today, I will not think of you. Today, I will not think of you." So I've been writing, my dad's a poet too, so that was a kind of odd experience, and I've been writing a lot of poems because my dad likes to tell me a lot of things, so I've been taking some of these anecdotes and such and trying to build poems out of them. So in this new manuscript, my dad is kind of like a character, which is sort of weird. So this one's called "My Dad Applies for Citizenship and is Accused of Being a Communist," 1997. 20 years after arrival, the burden of betraying his homeland finally gone, or at least dulled down to a manageable pain, tucked deep. But the government has questions. Why is he a member of Casa de las Americas, New York, supporters of the Cuban Revolution? Why does he get newspapers from Cuba and the Sandinistas in Nicaragua and the US's own Socialist Party? They ask what he talks about on his radio show. If they searched his home, the framed photo of Che in the foyer hanging like a holy relic would answer all their questions. But my dad just shrugs and says he's a writer and a journalist and likes to read, shows them his framed associate's degree from Hostas Community College, smudging the glass when he points to the word journalism, hoping he's masked his patronizing tone as pride. He says, "I've received such a great education in this country." He says, "I've learned so much about the US you wouldn't believe." And this will be the last one. This is a little long, and but it's not like super long. I'm not gonna like go on forever. It's just long for me. I usually write short poems, but it's pretty straightforward. From my uncle Kiko, who spent most of his life in psychiatric hospitals with schizophrenia. We can't bring in our phones. The armed security says it's to protect the patients from photos, that they technically can't consent, that it's a real shame we can't take pictures with our loved ones to share with our other loved ones who want to know how our loved ones are doing. He says this with one hand on his gun, eyeing us as we empty our pockets into a locker. No sharp objects, nothing that can record in any capacity for the patient's safety. The dad tells the desk we're here to see Ramon Antonio Enriquez. The first time I hear his real name, my uncle, who I call uncle and not Dio because I don't know him. Only ourselves and the food my dad bought at a Dominican spot on the way make it through the heavy metal doors that need to be buzzed open and locked loudly behind us. The visiting area looks like the break room of a large chain store, personalityless, a bland sterility but dirty at the same time, a TV in the corner showing the Yankees lose, and the orderlies gathered around the TV watching the Yankees lose. We wait and we wait. My dad says he hasn't seen his brother in a few years, says Kiko has an incredible memory. The mangug starts to grow cold. Then, through the doors, an old man on a walker bent almost in half, moving in slow motion. My dad's little brother looks decades older than him. A nurse guides him to our table, and the drugs in his voice ask my dad, "Who are you? Who is he?" It's hard watching my dad explain to his little brother. Something is misaligned in Kiko's brain. He remembers his brother Frank, but can't reconcile that knowledge with the person sitting next to him, putting an arm around him, asking if he's eaten today. Who here asks that and actually cares about the response? My dad asks what they feed him here. Oatmeal, he says. And what else? No answer. My dad lays out the food and Kiko shovels it into his toothless mouth, asking if my dad cooked it. My dad asks Kiko what happened to his teeth, wiping his mouth and chin. Kiko answers by nodding towards the orderlies watching TV, habichuelas dripping from his trembling lips onto already stained pants. Again, he asks my dad if he cooked this. My dad looks over at the orderlies and says nothing. Kiko asks about, and my dad says they died 30 years ago. Kiko asks about, and my dad says they died 20 years ago. Kiko asks about, and my dad says he doesn't remember who that is, looks at me with raised eyebrows and says, "See, my little brother has an excellent memory. He remembers more than me." Kiko doesn't smile. He keeps slurping and recollecting his checklist of the dead, unfazed by their absence, by having no landing space for his memories. My dad says Kiko used to keep a notebook of his life, of everything that ever happened to him, and memorized it, kept writing it in his head when the notebook was lost, left in the Dominican Republic on his journey to the States. One sec. Do you remember? Kiko stops eating and says yes, puts his hands on the table. This is the story of Ramon Antonio Enriquez, born 1959. A pause. He stares wide-eyed as though scared to say what comes next. He starts again. This is the story of Ramon Antonio Enriquez, and then nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel. Our next reader is Rushi Vyas. Rushi Vyas is the author of the forthcoming poetry collection, When I Reach for Your Pulse, an expat originally from Ohio. He's currently a PhD student in literature at the University of Otago in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So please give it up for Rushi.
Thank you all. Thank you, Gabby, for that introduction. Thank you, Amanda, for throwing me into this incredible lineup last minute. That was really, I'm really grateful to be here across the ocean. It's an election day here for Aotearoa, New Zealand, and thinking about the season. Thank you, Sean and the Muse for putting on this event. So in the little contract we had, I wrote a little thing down, just like about why poetry right now, or why is it important? And I've been thinking a lot about a James Baldwin quote lately. This one, it's pretty popular, but though we do not wholly believe it yet, the interior life is the real life, and the intangible dreams of people have a tangible effect on the world. And I've been thinking a lot about that lately with those existential crises of why poetry when things are burning around us. So I'm going to read some poems that, to me, that dreaming, I think like these times of upheaval sort of give us that opportunity to reimagine. And that's going through the difficulty of our collective and individual pasts. So I'm just going to get into it. So this first poem, Double Slit, I also want to just give a nod out to teachers that have helped me along the way. And Roger Reeves, I think he left an imprint on this poem quite a bit. So Double Slit. On the tongue, dim hovering over basement cement, light scatters, gray through the transom above, my dead Bapu. Stiff as sugarcane, stand. Golden beams fleck grains onto his ejected papillae. Light casts of rigored tissue, a tumor, frames my metastatic tremble. No. Think of light, my body approaching, now wave, his hanging, now particle. When I reach for his pulse, I collapse. Behind the door's double slit, the suspended body dies when seen. Perhaps if I look away, no. 2 days earlier, in sunlight, in the car, Bapu closer to my throat than his mind. One moment shaking, cursing his goddamn son. The next, still apology. Open palm caressing his Bachu's flat head. The visible spectrum flutters in rear view. No. Blink, phantasm, flicker, shadow, quiver. Basement furnace burning behind the neck, flame thieving his body to warm our home. I offer prasad to the murti of his mangled tongue, pour milk past hungry mouths into the gutter. Across the globe, monks leap from a mountain to return as rain. The prayer's scaffold falls. No. I can only pray his tongue is tumor before my gaze. It is just a dead organ, strings tethered to pipes in the ceiling. In the gray light, there is no mantra, but the wave function collapse, the signifier claiming the body it calls. All right. So, yeah, so some of my poems, few of these, most of these are from that forthcoming book, which will come out actually in 2023. So it's a long forthcoming period, but very excited for those to see the world. And they do revolve around my father's suicide. But to me, poetry does offer a way to move through that difficulty in order to imagine a better future or imagine different futures, right? So this one's another short one. It's called Making Ghee in This American Kitchen. The museless voice calls, hypocrisy hope. Smother knelt fire, clarify another butter pound. Clear the kitchen counter of all serrated blades. Conflate heat source and burned pages, the pages ablute to an unlaundered father. Say only the name of this country of unapology, in this country of unapology. Ecology is our butterbell. The refrigerator is dying. I chose that poem. I've been thinking here in the context, like learning about living in a new country. There's a lot of messy history here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, as you might imagine, as a site of British colonization. However, this is also a country that has acknowledged some of the wrongdoing of the past, and there have been steps that I really hope the U.S. can someday really acknowledge, which starts with apology, starts with apology, and starts with actually investing in languages and new imaginations. Like here, Te Reo Maori is becoming more a part of consciousness for everyone in the country, and it makes me think a lot about my experience in the U.S. and the erasure of the indigenous languages and names of places all over the country. Yeah, so I was thinking about that. I'll read a couple short ones. This one's called Dear Paranoia. You can find it on, this one was published in Counterclock Journal online. Has a little epigraph. The suicide rate for Asian Americans, 6.1 per 10,000, is about half that of the national rate, 11.5 per 10,000. About 75% of those who die by suicide give warning signs. Gift your double helix to the mouth. No matter how we grow, roots bind will, wind still blows, fallacy. Spring casts shadows below the creek's ice. Sun slips through creases between blinds, bleeds color in garments hung to dry through windows. We cannot predict the arbitrary warning sign, to which shade greens will fade. This tree, strung by miscarriage's shadow, bends, stripped limbs too long in sun. Disjunction, my lips crook, my slow chew. He left no note. Dear inheritance, let us relent to inevitable passing seasons. I know you just want me to survive. And this last one, I think it'll come out at some point on Pigeon Pages. And this was written in collaboration with a New York saxophonist, Yuma Uesaka. We've been doing periodically, he'll send me a little snippet of song and I'll write something and we'll do that sort of back and forth. So still nothing. So many things are happening without my lifting a finger. Atoms flow through the open border of the body. 7 billion hearts electrified, contract, spill iron for strange organs to make of blood music. The intestines' peristaltic dirge, the stomach's ecstatic rave, the percussion of lids and lashes beating conductorless. Even if I tell my back to straighten, how little I think of the many making it happen. Thousands of neurons bundled on the night shift, directing couriers of salt and bananas to freely exchange at the cell and through the cellular wall. I'm a porous thing waking daily to apply proteins to its face, to maintain my fickle boundary. How could nothing go wrong? All I'm doing is the least I can do. Thank you. Thanks for letting me be a part of this. Thanks to Amanda and Ariel for reading, and I'm excited to hear Joy and Amanda.
Thanks so much, Rushi. Our next reader is Joy Priest. Joy Priest is the author of Horsepower, winner of the Donald Hall Prize for Poetry. She is the recipient of the 2020 Stanley Kunitz Prize, and her work has appeared or is forthcoming in the Academy of American Poets, Poem a Day, APR, The Atlantic, The Bitter Southerner, Poetry Northwest, and Poets and Writers, among others. She is currently a doctoral student in literature and creative writing at the University of Houston. So here's Joy Priest.
Hi, everyone, and I'm so excited to be reading with these poets, ones I know and meeting the ones I don't know through their work. I'm just gonna read 4 poems from the second section in my book. And I think I'll just read through them, but maybe what you need to know is that I grew up across the street from Churchill Downs, which is where they run the Kentucky Derby horse race the first Saturday every May, except for this year when it was ran in September. And also it was boycotted this year in honor of Breonna Taylor. So the year I was born, 1988, a filly won the Kentucky Derby and her name was Winning Colors. Winning Colors, 1988. I am born in the season of color blocking and crack, in the dawn of the Reagan era. The light and dark shades of school days dance across movie screens. A girl horse wins the garland of roses. 554 blooms sprout red around her roan neck, shock of black mane, haze of white down her nose. Before her, only 2 fillies clutch the purse. Regret in 1915, genuine risk in 1980 are names for girls. When my birth horse sets off out of the gate, a man and woman are working their 11th hour, twirling around the country club in the graceful choreography of weathered servers. The woman just 12 weeks pregnant, yet not yet swollen with her dark choice, the man taking bets and slurs alike out of the mouths of the club's members, rich in red face from mint juleps. When the woman hands off dirty glassware to the man, father of her child, she giggles, smacks him on his great black ass. When the girl comes down the last stretch, she's been out in front the whole race, full of Cairo, violencing the dirt, expectations stamped into bets at one point, her odds 100-1. When her neck clears the wire into the known world, the dark trumpet sounds. Oh, I did want to say, I also had something in mind for the question that we were asked in the contract about, why is poetry important during a time like this? And I also had a James Baldwin quote, because like, who else do you go to for that question? But mine was also probably also like very commonly known, but the poets are finally the only ones who know the truth about us. The politicians don't, the priests don't, etc. So, and people like to argue when I post it on Twitter, but I think it's pretty real. Like poets, our allegiance is to language and not to the state, not to the church and all these other things, all these other colonial impositions. Nightstick. In Kentucky, you are a Black girl, but don't know. You sleep next to it, crooked bone, split open head, patrolling through the night. Don't even know you should be trying to run away. It rests in your terrors, it rests in your night terrors, in a bureau between your grandmother's quilts with her thimbles and thread and dead white poems. Don't think for a moment your grandfather won't pull it out, make a cross of it with your arms, gift you its weight in crime. Do you believe? What if he said its name was Justice? Would that be too much? If he was the only man your childhood saw hauled away in handcuffs, pale and liver spotted and stiff in limbs sharp enough to fold into the back of a cruiser? You, this bruise of irony, the only 2 Blacks ever allowed in his house. And at night, he be singing you to sleep while it sits invisible, sentry-like out of sight. He be humming hymns. I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses. Knowing how much blood it has seen and whose. He be holding you to himself like a secret. And every song be a prayer for your daddy's sunk in head, you breathing one for his whole face before you. Bullying a shit-shaded boy's head is what it's made for, he say, your papa while you hold it, not knowing enough about yourself to understand the cannibal nature of chewing on his words with no riot inside. No baton twirling in the air of your stomach. No notice of the grand wizard and his wand when he appears in your nightmares. You be closed eye, and it be there. Black is who it means to be. My father is also for sure, I guess I should say the speaker's father, is also for sure a character in my book. And the last 2 poems I'm gonna read are from a series, and I just really relate so hard relate to Ariel's work with his dad and all that. So I'm excited to be reading with him. But these are from a series in the book. The other poems start, my father teaches me. My father teaches me how to slip away with Clarence Carter on in the background. And there I sit in my mother's white Plymouth, stolen in the open under advisement of this country's laws and customs. I wait beneath the Hollywood videos, fanatic purple lights, their appliance buzz sound of the spectral past crackling in and out. I wait for my mother to return, to go back to the only home I've ever known, but inside, she's been stunned still at the sight of my father, possibly a mirage. I must have been asking for him, begging, but she had no address, no number to call. This moment, pure chance, a warp in the spinning wax come back around, her mind skipping as she stands before him with West Side Story in hand, then speaks finally to tell him I am out in the car. And that night, my father will tell his wife I exist. And that night, he'll make it to my grandfather's house with this declaration on his lips. He'll try even again, after being turned away for 7 years by a many-chambered gun. In this time, when he arrives, somehow my mother knows he is there waiting in the outer space air of October. This time, a window is open and ash is falling from his cigarette behind the barbecue pit where he crouches just as a nightmare curls back from my skin like smoke. This time, my grandfather is unaware, bound to his makeshift couch bed by malignancy, when my mother pulls me through the cone of light cast from his living room and toward my Black life. When we steal past the safe that holds the revolver wrapped in a tea towel, my free fist turns like a wrench in my eye, and then the heavy oak door whispered open by the sparkle of my father's knuckles, and then my mother pushing me onto the night porch saying, "Your father, this is your father." Before me, a mirror. My horse mind flickers. When I step into him and look back at my mother, she is on the other side. My dad just like literally called me during the poem. It's like his favorite poem. He probably heard me reading it. He's very flattered to be written about. So it's like people ask me, like, people have been asking me lately, does your family care that you've like written these things? And I'm like, oh please, like I'm like very excited about it. They're like, where's the movie? Okay. Last poem. My father teaches me about the bees. Whew, I'm hot. My father teaches me about the bees before the scientists do. Our backyard is his armchair. He rises from the buried roots and tomato vines to come see about us. Me running, my honey dark baby sister, who I've just caught stick poking a hive stuck to the side of our house, tangled in my arms. He sees the world in us, knows the huge abstract names for emotions when it comes to plants, but not his own self. He stops me, spins me nose to nose with him, our top lips beaded with sweat, says, "What is it?" "Bees," I squeak, "bees." His eyes erupt, twin wildfires. Don't you know I am a bee? You a bee. Today on a podcast, the entomologist says honeybees are actually an invasive species in the sense they don't belong here, imported by early European settlers. And as he continues, talking about our solitary American honeybee species brought over for their weight in gold, I want to hug my father, put an ear to his hive chest heart buzz, whole ecosystems built through our long blood. I want to listen before it's too late. Remember always what he said that day. Don't teach your sister to fear the bees. How much fear sounded like destroy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next and final reader is Amanda Galvan Huynh. Amanda Galvan Huynh is a Mexican-American writer from Texas. She's the author of a chapbook, Songs of Brujeria, and co-editor of Color, Poets' Ways of Making, an anthology on transformative poetics. Currently, she is a doctoral student in English at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. So here's Amanda.
Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, the Muse. Thank you, all of you. Oh my goodness. Like, I just want to sit with all y'all's words. Thanks for being here. I'm so happy that all of you were able to be here and that we get to share this space. I'm going to be reading 3 poems. My family is in these poems too. So as we're talking, I'm like, yes, my family is here. That is for sure. So I think today or yesterday was the last day of Latinx Heritage Month. So this poem is for that. So this first one is Letter to My First Gold hoops. You came in a white box, pillowed on pink, your body the width of my finger, a shell pattern tracing the curve of your sonrisa. I can see my mother over the glass choosing you, her own hoops glinting in the light. She tucked you in her purse and brought you home to me. On my 5th birthday, she slid you through the holes of my ears and you dangled beside my brown curls. You took in the world above my shoulder, learned to swim, ate elotes, and searched for old dresses at the flea market. Sat through First Communion, read books on road trips across Texas, made tortillas with abuela, climbed onto buses for first days of school. To you, this was our forever. But middle school taught me the word wetback, taught me the place of my skin. Curly hair should be straightened, dyed, color contacts should cover the earth in my eyes. Taught me how to unclasp you from my flesh, to choose silver over gold, and leave the pride of you on my dresser. Escúchame, I'm sorry, forever hiding your smile, your sonrisa, when all you wanted was to love. So yeah, so now like my gold hoops, they're very small. I got them, it's very cute. So that's just, you know, a nod, especially now to Latinx Heritage Month. So I'm going to move into this next one. I feel like I do need to give a trigger warning for it. So yeah, just if you need to step away, you can definitely step away. My partner asks if I can buy him a new belt. At Macy's, I stand in front of the belt rack. All of them hang like tongues, their flesh hewed from dirt to oak tree to night. I cannot bring myself to touch them. An employee asks if I need help, but I am already walking down the hallway to my parents' bedroom. My hand against the wall feels every bump until I stand in their closet. My mother waits as I stare into the eyes of my father's belts. 4, 1 braided, 1 thick, glossy, the color of coffee, another thin and the color of a desk, the other a dull night. I press them between my fingers to decide which one would hurt the least, but I know they can all sing about pain. They will all count my age, remind me of how old I have become, remind me of how I should know better, remind me to clean my room, to listen, to do as I'm told, to tell the truth, to come home on time, to not trust boys, to not talk back. They will remind me of the strength in my mother's arm. They will remind her of her own beltings, that this is the only way, a prayer to keep us protected. And this last one, a little bit lighter, wanted to leave us feeling happy. And I love reading this poem because it has my little sister in it. And she always tells me, "You're welcome," for this poem. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope, you know, if she's also watching too, thank you for the inspiration for this moment, for this poem. It is called "When My Little Sister Mistakes Selena for Selena Gomez." I whip around so fast, she gets whiplash. No sister of mine will confuse Selena with Selena Gomez. I say Selena. Slow and enunciate the Spanish, because when you say Selena in Spanish, every Tejana knows you're praying to the queen of Tejano, la reina de cumbia, patron saint of red lipstick, pizza, bomb-ass bustiers, purple jumpsuits, and washing machine hips. A name untouched by the American tongue, she's the patron saint of Latinas everywhere. A light embossed into memory that we can be something more in this borderland of tongues, on this American soil, so quick to tie our names down to English, because don't you know, Selena Gomez was named after Selena. America just turned her into something it could pronounce. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I got chills, I was warmed. This was such a wonderful reading. So thank you also to the Muse Writer Center for creating this space. I've been your host, Gabriela Igloria, and now we'll hear a few closing words from Sean.
Thanks, Gabriela. Oh, wow, that was really fantastic. What a great way to start this event and just have a Friday night in to hear all those powerful words. It's just really amazing, like the way things are happening now, and just to be able to spend this time in front of a computer and just hear so many things. It's like, to me, it's just very uplifting, and it's really a great start to many, many more events that are going to feature great artists. So I want to thank Gabby for hosting. Great job. So we'll do like a clap. And also all of the wonderful performers, the poets, you guys were great. Look on our page. There's links to all of their websites. They have books for sale. You can read their stuff, I'm sure. Poets, we need to support our poets. We need to make sure that they're able to do what they love the best, and also what they're the best at. And the way they do that is by getting support from all of you. So thank you to the audience for watching. We are kind of playing around with how we're putting this out there. We use YouTube tonight, but there are links on Facebook. So I guess technically you can join us on Facebook always. And on our website, the-muse.org, go to the calendar. We're live streaming on there as well. And we are going to be running this throughout the month, and you can go on and continue to sponsor and continue to donate. I'd like to mention our feature organizations, Black Lives Matter Chicago, Feed the West, We Need Diverse Books. These are places that will take your money for sure. And also, the Muse will take your money. So we will definitely take it anyway, but also just check out all of our classes and take a class. And if you need help with that, ask us, and we want you to continue to express yourself through the written word in any way you can. Join us tomorrow for the big spotlight event. We have very amazing poets tomorrow. The National Youth Poet Laureate Mira Dasgupta, January Gill O'Neill, and Ross Gay. We are partnering with Urban Word New York, or Urban Word NYC, and we're going to have some great conversation too with Luisa Igloria, and check out all the other events coming up. And one last plug for that evening, we are going to have a local poet who has been a student at the Muse for many years, is going to celebrate the launch of his chapbook. His name is Bill Ayers, and Kendra McDonald, another wonderful poet, is going to be asking him questions after he reads. So lots of free events. You can get all your work, all the poetry you need at the Muse this next day or two. So thanks again to everybody. I hope you have a great night, and make sure you check us. Okay, bye.